Before we hear from our next speaker, would those who plan to present donations to the Legacy Fund with the American Legion Riders please gather backstage in the center area in about 5 minutes. History has always been important to the American Legion, but never more so than during a milestone year like our centennial. We're fortunate to have the right person chairing our 100th Anniversary Observance Committee. With a degree in physics and a master's in metallurgy, his intellect is without question. He also gained a lot of attention for the American Legion during his year as National Commander when he took on the Department of Homeland Security over a poorly worded report that compared veterans to terrorists. He also persuaded the White House to quickly withdraw a 2009 proposal to charge veterans' personal insurance companies for treatment of service-connected disabilities. Once again, please welcome past National Commander David K. Rehbein of the Department of Iowa.
Oh, I've got a lot of stuff hidden back there. Thank you, Commander. 2 words: legacy and vision. Those were the terms the American Legion 100th Anniversary Observance Committee adopted in the first of our meetings 6 years ago. Very much like the organization during its formative months in 1919, the Centennial Committee began its work with a clean slate. No dedicated funds, no promotional materials, no clear staff assignments or idea where any of this would go. But like the founders of the American Legion, our committee shared a passion. Ours was to amplify the American Legion centennial message from the most rural local posts to the halls of Congress, in major cities and small towns throughout our nation and around the world. And we made a priority of starting the process through local post and department engagement. This committee was guided by a mission statement that read this way: the American Legion's 100th anniversary program and committees strive to raise awareness and stimulate activity nationwide and beyond, in honor of the organization's first century, with a vision of continued relevance for veterans and their families as the nation's largest veteran service organization moves into its second century. From that statement, we established 5 key objectives: to enthusiastically express to the nation through commemorations, exhibits, ceremonies, and media initiatives the impact the American Legion has had over the last century and how it continues to serve; to promote the American Legion's ongoing legacy and founding values of transition assistance, especially to the post-9/11 generation of veterans coming home from service; deliver to the nation specific messages of American Legion services and advocacy for veterans returning home with unique economic and medical needs, including psychological and physical issues; synergize with other entities, including selected post-9/11 veterans groups, educational institutions, businesses, and government offices to share the centennial story; and finally, to strengthen the American Legion's identity, its public perception, by lifting up our legacy and showing how what we have done says much about who we are and why we are needed for another century. Specific tactics to fulfill this strategic plan have been many. From the Legion Centennial Monument installed in Missouri City, Texas, to throwing out the first pitch at a New York Mets game, to the Centennial Festival this month in Montgomery, Minnesota, and thousands of other events like those, the 100th anniversary message has been delivered at every level of our organization's impact. I would like to share with you all of the ways the centennial has been celebrated, but that would take another convention of its own, so let me highlight just a few. First, the American Legion's traveling exhibits have crisscrossed the country. The greatest legislation exhibits that tell the story of the Legion's central role in the creation and ongoing work to improve the GI Bill. That exhibit began the tour at the National World War II Museum in New Orleans in June of 2017 and has been booked solid since. Along the way, the display has been installed in 2 presidential libraries, many museums, 2 Student Veterans of America national conferences, a VA medical center, a county library in Douglas, Georgia, Camp Dodge in Iowa, a department convention in New Jersey, and in June was inside the U.S. Capitol building for a congressional reception on the 75th anniversary of the signing of the Servicemen's Readjustment Act. During its travels to date, we estimate that exhibit has been viewed by more than 1 million people. The success of this exhibit spawned others, including a smaller, lighter version of the GI Bill story, a 160-foot, 4-panel chronology of the American Legion's first century that you saw in the exhibit hall, and a 20 by 8-foot double-sided tribute to American Legion baseball. These exhibits and others will continue to travel throughout the remainder of the Centennial celebration and beyond into cities and towns where they have been displayed. These exhibits have been magnets for community interactions and special events. Essential to the success of these Centennial commemorations have been local posts of every size and dimension that have shared their stories locally and nationally. More than 3,000 posts have now uploaded their histories on the National Centennial website, a website which will continue to grow in the future. Nearly 2,600 memorials and monuments have been uploaded by local American Legion family members to our national database, a database which did not exist anywhere until this one was created. Local communities across the country and around the world have conducted celebrations with fireworks, with parades, with music, and with ceremonies. Every American Legion department has given great effort and attention to the Centennial, from the Department of Missouri's outstanding event on the 100th anniversary of the St. Louis Caucus, to the Department of Arizona's Centennial documentary film series, and the Department of New York's 100th anniversary celebration weekend at the National Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, and many, many others, too many to detail them all. No matter where you go, no matter the size of the post or the budget of the department, the American Legion Centennial has been celebrated in ways that would make our founders proud. For many of us, the Centennial hit a crescendo about a month ago during the first week of August. The American Legion Centennial Ride of 2019 hit on all cylinders and touched on nearly every aspect of the committee's strategic plan. 6 American Legion departments organized and sponsored this 2-wheeled ride along U.S. Highway 281, the American Legion Memorial Highway, which was designated as that in 1960. That year, Legionnaires in automobiles caravanned, one coming south from the U.S.-Canada border, the other coming north from the U.S.-Mexico border along this 1,870-mile highway. This year, Legion riders made a very similar journey, except on motorcycles. Team Legacy, led by National Vice Commander Jim Wallace, began its leg at the International Peace Park near Dunseth, North Dakota. Team Vision, led by National Vice Commander Steve Sweet, rode north through Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas. Team Legacy passed through North Dakota, a very rainy South Dakota, and Nebraska before meeting up with Team Vision in Great Bend. Legion riders from each of these departments served as great ambassadors of the American Legion, visiting more than 60 local posts along the way, receiving resolutions and proclamations of gratitude from local officials, doing media interviews, and laying a wreath to the fallen at the Fort Sill National Cemetery. Ann and I were able to join Team Legacy for 2 days of that ride. Outside the post in O'Neill, Nebraska, we gathered with local Legionnaires and city leaders just a few feet from the church where we were married. Later that same day, we rolled into the community of Red Cloud, Nebraska. And that is when the impact of our legacy and vision mantra, the purpose of this ride and the entire program, really hit home. The leadership of the Red Cloud Post is also the leadership of the local fire department and are primarily post 9/11 veterans. The Post and the fire department hosted a dinner for us. They invited local officials to share in the celebration. The following morning, the Lions Club there invited us to a pancake breakfast before we got back on the road. I left Red Cloud, Nebraska, feeling like the American Legion's second century is in good hands there. And the message of our organization's legacy has incubated a vision that young Legionnaires understand and is timeless. While we know that this vision exists in Red Cloud, we expect that the same vision exists in many other posts and communities similar to Red Cloud all across the nation. At every stop on the Centennial Ride, Team Legacy and Team Vision delivered certificates and had post commanders sign one half of a banner. Those two halves were fastened together in a ceremony August 4th in Great Bend, Kansas. As promised, we are here today to deliver that banner to American Legion National Commander Brett Reistad on stage at this convention. You see the two National Vice Commanders. You see a representative from the riders of each of those 6 departments with that banner towards the rear of this stage. They have that banner with them. While it was created from one event, it represents all those Legion family members across this nation who celebrated the centennial of the American Legion and who have drawn inspiration from the legacy created during those 100 years. Those Legion family members have the vision implanted from that legacy to ensure that the American Legion will remain as vital and necessary to this country during the next 100 years. Commander Reistad, please accept this banner on behalf of our great organization as a symbol of the centennial of the American Legion that has been and still is being celebrated in thousands of towns and cities across our country. We hope that banner can be displayed in national headquarters as a reminder of everything the Centennial stands for today and will continue to stand for. Commander? I want to personally thank those two National Vice Commanders because they rode many miles from their homes to the start of the ride, down the ride, half of that 1,875 miles, and then back home, before they each went to the Legacy Run. Mr. Commander, please accept that banner with our thanks for allowing us for the sponsorship of this centennial.
Very much appreciate it. No,
I'll be done in just a minute.
I'll gladly
one more
not.
thing. And I want to take a moment of personal privilege here. There is a presentation. You heard me speak about the event at the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame at the Department of New York that they sponsored. They are here to make a presentation to you and I, Commander Reistad. Are the New York Legionnaires here? Commander, if you would join me at the microphone. We have outgoing Department Commander, Delegation Chairman Gary Shacker. Gary?
In April, we partnered with the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown to honor the 100 years of the American Legion and American Legion Baseball and the now 81 Hall of Famers that got their start in American Legion Baseball. I'd like to present to Past Commander Rehbein and to Commander Reistad a baseball bat from the Cooperstown Bat Company with the Department of New York 100th anniversary coin and the 100th anniversary logo.
This will become a very valued member of my collection, and I'm sure it will yours too, Commander.
Absolutely it will.
Jim, thank you. Thank you.
Here, maybe we need to come out here.
Yep. One final word. Every one of you in this hall, every member of our American Legion family, made a contribution to celebrating the centennial of the American Legion. Some were large contributions, some were not quite as large, but they were all important. And you can all take home the memory that you were here when we celebrated the centennial of the American Legion. Pass that memory along to the Legionnaires that follow us, because they will be here when we celebrate the 150th anniversary and that time capsule is open. Mr. Commander, I appreciate the time. Thank you.